Let's start with some introductions. I'm Nikki. I'm the VP of Digital Marketing at Tenant Inc. And with us, we have Michael Cottam. He is a nationally recognized SEO expert. He's also a consultant with Tenant. He's been with us for years, um, kicking our butts on a monthly basis to make sure that we're at the top of our SEO game. And we're very, very lucky to have him. We also have Sneha Josie, our product director of product for Mariposa, and Margo Tannewitz from A1 Self Storage, our favorite customer. Um, so Michael will start with an introduction on what's been changing in the landscape of SEO. I'll move on to talk about PPC and Google Business Profile. Sneha will talk about the SEO features of Mariposa and how we're constantly updating the product to stay on top of SEO. And then Margo will talk about her experience with Google strategy and PPC. So, Michael, if you'd like to kick it off with your deck, you
Sure
should be.
thing. All right, can you see my screen?
Yeah. Woo.
Okay. So you'll see a lot of AI generated images here. So AI is good for something. So what we're going to talk about today is what AI is doing to impact your traffic, but more importantly, in the next 12 months, what's it likely to be doing and how should you be responding to that, take advantage of that. First of all, you might be thinking, well, I hear about AI in the news all the time, so hot. How come I'm not seeing traffic from ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude, and all these kinds of things? Well, for starters, a lot of traffic that's come to your site from things other than Facebook and Twitter and Instagram is actually having the referrer hidden so that in Google Analytics, you can't tell that it's coming from Mastodon or Discord or Slack or TikTok or Facebook Messenger. Somebody finds an ad you've got on Facebook for something and they want to share that. They send that messenger to their spouse or their friend, like, hey, we ought to think about storing stuff here. Somebody clicks on that, that traffic shows up as direct, like they typed in your brand name and came directly to you. So talking about social networks here, but this also applies to ChatGPT and Claude and things like that. The traffic reports are showing in general that AI is only about 1% of your total traffic on average. So they call this, when you're talking about like TikTok and Slack in this slide, they call that dark social, but dark AI traffic is really a thing. A lot of stuff that's coming from these platforms, you're not seeing broken out in your Google Analytics reports as coming from AI or things like that. The number one standalone tool driving traffic is ChatGPT. About 15% of people are using that. Each of the others that you've heard of, like Claude, Perplexity, etc., in the 1% and 2% range in terms of what people have been able to figure out and what percentage of people are using them. But the big one that nearly everybody uses is Google AI overviews. And those are showing up in 30% of searches today in Google. So people might be thinking, I'm not using AI, but Google is sticking it in there for you. If you read that stuff at the top and you clicked on something or you saw that a certain brand or a location was recommended for whatever, and then you Google that brand, that's looking like direct traffic to you, but really it's being driven to you by Google's AI. So big question is where's the beef with AI? Well, if this is such a big deal, why I'm not seeing it. So the AI overviews in your industry here tend not to show very much for local intent searches. It's not exclusively not, but a lot of the kinds of things that AI overviews is going to show for is like, how do I, what is that sort of thing. When people type in a question like, what's the best or what's the cheapest storage facility, or what's the best storage facility for a boat near Lexington, or whatever it happens to be, then sometimes AI overviews will pop stuff up and they'll start mentioning brands. And so that can actually drive some traffic. ChatGPT, if you're just purely in ChatGPT and typing in questions, a lot of times they'll highlight things that they reference it, but for whatever reason in ChatGPT, it's not actually a link. And so if you find something that says you ought to use XYZ in ChatGPT, a lot of times you've got to go out to Google and Google XYZ to get to it. So that again is going to show up as a direct search, a direct traffic. Social media platforms. I'm talk a bunch more about that and what AI is going to do there in a little bit. But the social media platforms all have a big incentive to keep you from leaving their platform and going out to a Google search. Um, or clicking on a link. And so things like TikTok and Instagram, it's virtually impossible to get a link in there. You can get a link in a description in YouTube. Certainly you get links in Facebook and you can track all that. But a lot of these platforms are incented because of their ad revenue model to keep you on the platform. They don't want to make it easy for somebody to post something on their platform where people that read your post and like it can really easily click out. They're going to make you do a bit of extra work. So let's talk about what the path is for a customer to find your business in this kind of scenario. What's going to happen? First of all, they're going to ask a question, and whether they're asking ChatGPT or Google or Bing or a Facebook search or whatever it is. They're going to see whatever the recommended brands or products are that in that AI answer, or in a social media answer like a TikTok or an Instagram search or whatever. They're not going to get a link there a lot of times. They might get a link. So Google AI overviews are showing links a bit more, and same thing with Copilot, but a lot of the places they won't get a link. So then they're going to turn around and do a Google search for that product. And that's going to appear to be a regular Google organic search traffic lead. So why am I talking so much about social media instead of AI when my title slide said this was about AI and search? The reason is these AI chatbots are going to be coming to all the social media channels. You've got to believe that every CEO of every major social media platform out there is trying to negotiate some sort of a deal with one of these AI answer engines to embed it in their site. And this is not just the Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and things like that, but we're also talking about the online community. So Reddit, Nextdoor, eBay, Amazon. If you can't find what you or if you can find what you want without leaving wherever your happy little place is, if you like to be on Nextdoor all day long, or Facebook, or Reddit, or some community or forum, something like that, if you could do a search there and you could get an answer that's as good or better and probably is simpler than going to the giant mess that is a Google search results page today, you're going to stay there. And then guess what? That platform, whatever it is going to get more ad impressions. They're going to make more money. So that's what's coming. So let's talk about why the AI chatbot answers are better than Google, because there's been a lot of stuff in the press lately about Google making the search results deliberately worse so that there's more clicks on their ads and they get more ad revenue. And I don't think that's all just conspiracy theory. I think some of that's actually happening. For lots of searches, the answers that AI is providing to people, whether it's the Google AI overviews or it's ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever, the answers are simpler. They're aggregating and summarizing a bunch of info from a bunch of sources so that you don't have to do that. And in general, it tends to be much less intrusive, less ads, not 25 different search features scattered all over the place like you see in Google. Google's search results pages today are pretty complex. For some, they're confusing. And for everybody, they make you do a lot of work to try to extract what the right answer is. Google's approach has always been, hey, here's 10 pages that each might have the answer. How about you go do the work and find it? Well, AI is really nice is that it goes through not just those 10, but maybe hundreds of pages, figures out what it thinks is most trustworthy and accurate, summarizes that, and gives it to you in a nice bite-sized kind of answer. So that's why I think we're going to see a lot more movement away from the traditional search engine to figure stuff out and more into chatbots to figure stuff out, because it's doing a bunch of this upfront work for you. So let's talk about who's likely to license and embed one of these AI chatbots. So anybody that wants to keep users on their site, which is pretty much everybody, right? To make more ad impressions, to sell them something. And what that means is all the social media platforms are going to have to embed an AI chatbot of some sort. A few might try to build their own. I think Meta probably has enough money to build their own, and maybe Reddit. But for the most part, they're going to be going to OpenAI and Gemini and people like this and saying, okay, well, what's it going to cost for us to embed this here? The community sites I talked about, that's going to be likely. But also, if things like the Chinese DeepSeek AI answer engine, which is a fraction of the cost to run of all the others, if that becomes a big deal and licensable, you're going to see, some of the larger forums making deals to integrate those sorts of things in. And even the big e-commerce sites. I'd have to say today, Amazon probably has the worst site search of any e-commerce site I've ever seen. But if I'm trying to find something on Amazon, most of the time I'll go out to Google and I'll Google the thing I'm looking for. And then if an Amazon page comes up for it, that's going to be easier. Amazon is terrible at searches for part numbers and descriptions and models and things like that. So Amazon has the money to do this themselves, and we know they're working on some AI. They might end up licensing it. Regardless of how it ends up, you need to expect in the next 1 to 3 years that everywhere you go, just like everywhere has a site search box at the top, it's going to be kind of like that, except it's not going to be site search. It's going to be a search for anything. So the question that comes then, if AI is going to be how people find things all over the place, not just in Google, how do we make AI love your website so that you show up in those AI generated answers? So number one, popularity and authority signals are a big deal. Google's been about links mostly forever. And in the last couple of years, they're starting to measure social media mentions and engagement. And that's a signal. With AI, links still count and links are looked at, but they're not nearly as important as they are to Google in that algorithm. Social media engagement is a big deal to the AI answer engines. Your content quality and originality is a big deal. One of the things that AI is blamed for is regurgitating other people's stuff. By the same token, what they're looking for to figure out what stuff are they going to regurgitate is the stuff that's original, that agrees with what everybody else says, but seems to be, the source and not just a republisher of the same stuff. Schema markup. So schema markup is this hidden JavaScript data that we all put in our pages that tell anything that crawls our site, okay, this is the name of the organization, this is the address, this is the phone number, this is our logo, this facility is a self-storage facility, and these are the 5 different unit sizes and rates it has. This is a person, this is a first name, last name, this is their LinkedIn, all that sort of stuff that crawlers and the AI LLMs are going to look at to figure out, well, what is this page really about? Schema markup is way more deeply analyzed by the AI answer engines than Google is today. And so they're looking there to decide, okay, well, what's on this page and who wrote the content on this page through author markup, and what's their Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, and how much are they followed in those places? Are they really an authority in that space? Or, do they have 5 friends on Facebook and nobody follows them on LinkedIn? So the AI answer engines are diving way deeper into this sort of stuff than Google is, despite all Google talks about EEAT. Brand mentions are a really big deal. So besides the looking at your social profiles and how many people follow you, things like that, the AI answer engines and even Google in this past year is Google's has been shown, I think, in the API document leak last summer. It was shown that Google is counting the number of brand mentions in content, and that's really a new thing because it requires a lot of analysis to be able to analyze every web page on the internet and decide what's a brand term in all that text. The AI LLMs have been doing that for a little while, and so if your brand is getting mentioned on a regular basis, well, then you must be a big player in whatever space you're in. So I think we've all seen businesses that name themselves, especially with Google business profiles, with the keywords they want to rank for. So in Los Angeles, there's an amazing number of law firms named DUI Attorney Los Angeles. And that still works in Google local search, unfortunately. But the problem comes when things like Google and AI LLMs are looking for brand mentions. Official business name like DUI Attorney Los Angeles doesn't look like a brand term. It looks like regular keywords. So they're not going to get noticed. If your business name is Acme Publishing, totally different story. A1 Storage, for instance, that Google can pick out because storage might be a regular, ordinary, unbranded keyword, but A1 Storage especially if they spot the S in storage capitalized. Now they can spot that as a brand mention. And so they're going to be using that, they're using that already as a measure of like who actually is popular versus the old school Google of who had the most links. So the next question is, well, is Google going away? Well, no, I think not even eventually is Google going away. There's just going to be a lot of searching shifted from Google and Bing and Yahoo over to these little AI widgets within embedded in other platforms. So in Google, for local intent searches, Google is still showing that regular old three pack with the map up top. And typically they're not showing an AI overview. There's some exceptions, but most of the time the AI overview is not going to show up for these local intent searches in Google. Local intent is, storage facility near me, things like that. Anything with near me, Google knows is local intent. Anything with a named city, Google knows is local intent. And then beyond that, they're looking at if people search for, say, storage units, what percent of the time do people click on a local result versus a national result? That tells Google whether that's a local intent search. So if you're going to get that three pack up there, then obviously you still need to rank in the three pack. Not everything is moved to AI. The AI one answer approach typically is not as suitable when you're searching for a business unless somebody uses adjectives like what's the best or what's the nearest or what's the cheapest or what storage facilities offer wine storage in XYZ county. Then it might make sense for that AI overview to show up. Let's talk about Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. They do have local search results today, and they're pretty ugly and simple. They're not very good with near me. They think near me is a keyword still. But if you type, I'm sitting here in Bend, Oregon. If I type in, boat storage, Bend, Oregon, in TikTok or in Instagram, I get a pretty decent set of results. And I can even see the reviews, and I can drill down in and read reviews and see review stars. So it's actually not that terrible. It's nowhere near as good as a Google result or a ChatGPT result today, but you got to expect that to get better. Or they might just throw away the local search and just embed an AI answer engine to do that for you. So between the Google ads, the three packs, featured snippets, and the people also ask, those regular 10 blue links in the regular organic results are way down the page. And so we're seeing less and less and less traffic to those regular organic results, especially if it's a local intent kind of search. Next thing I want to talk about is, people come to me and say, well, I see that, XYZ big brand, is doing this. Amazon is doing this. So why shouldn't we do that on our website too? Well, the big brands are not always right. So generally they're going to have really long development cycles. I remember I was at a conference in Seattle and I was talking to another SEO guy I know about on-page tuning and the Panda algorithm and stuff like this. And I was telling him how this travel site I run on the side, I'm outranking TripAdvisor for best time of year to go to Tahiti because my content is doing this, and TripAdvisor is like ads and forums and pop-ups. And TripAdvisor having maybe 10,000 times the links I had. And the guy to my left taps me on the shoulder and says, hi, I'm whatever his name is. I'm the SEO guy from TripAdvisor. I'm like, oh, okay. 3 years later, they still hadn't made any of those changes. And I was talking to him and he said, we know what we need to do, but I can't get it done. Marketing is requiring these ads up top and this and et cetera, et cetera. So these big companies often are very risk averse. They don't want to make changes to their structure in case all of a sudden, if it drops 1%, 1% decline in sales for extra space or square foot or whoever is going to be really big. Sometimes they'll have some brand direction from marketing where the messaging has to be X. And so, for instance, if you're tuning a page title, you typically want that page title to start with whatever keyword you want the page to rank for. So boat storage in San Diego, something like that. They might have messaging where they want everywhere somebody sees their brand for it to say the best this or the most secure blah 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 storage in San Diego for boats, and so they might be tweaking some of that tuning away from maybe the absolute best SEO approach because of these other kinds of directives and goals within their company. IT priorities for projects. A lot of that's going to be impacted at these big companies is how does doing, these changes, how is it going to affect this quarter's numbers? And what if it actually drives the numbers down? Then we're in serious trouble. So there's a lot of paralysis you find in these big companies. And the other thing is, because the giants have huge backlink profiles, they don't have to do as well on the other ranking factors. So if you have 100 or 1,000 times the backlink of the other competitors for a certain geographic area for storage facilities, then you can play all sorts of games with your page titles and maybe get better click-through rate and not actually drop 1 or 2 spots down the page because it doesn't match the keywords as well, because you've got all these backlinks, and that piece of the algorithm, you're killing it so much that you can afford to make these trade-offs and test different things. All right, so what should we be doing knowing what's likely to happen with AI and responding today to Google AI overviews and ChatGPT, where most of that AI traffic is going to come from? So how does search show up in AI search results? Talked about schema, got to have your schema markup correct. Video first content. Lots of younger people. So if you're catering at all to college students moving in and out of dorms back home for the summer, things like that, they're all on, they're all video first kinds of people, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or whatever. Google is also rewarding any page that has video content embedded in it because they know a huge percentage of people would prefer to not read because they're lazy. They'd rather have somebody read it to them, even if all the video is somebody reading that article to the camera. Plenty of people prefer that. So if your page has video content on it as well as the text, that makes it better for that percentage of people who'd rather see a video. It's also much more shareable and more engaged with typically on the social media channels. You've got to promote your content on social media channels. I see far too many SEO agencies that use a fire and forget kind of approach to social media, where they create some great content and they post it on their Facebook page or wherever it is, and then they go on and create some more great content. The problem is if you don't do a bunch of work to make sure that gets engaged with, it dies on the vine pretty quick. And so you get a whole bunch of content in Facebook, and the AI answer engines and Google can see that, hey, you publish a lot and nobody seems to care. And that's a very bad popularity signal and does not encourage them to want to quote you and show you in their answers. You need to promote in communities outside those social media channels. So if there's a community or a place where college students in your town that would use your facilities ask questions and chat, hang out, you need to be engaged there so that they're seeing your brand there. And then they'll go out and they'll search for your brand, or they'll go, oh yeah, I forgot that facility was there. I know where that is. Awareness kinds of stuff. The other thing is, if you're somebody like Google and you wanted to figure out is who is trying to buy all of their brand awareness and marketing versus who actually is popular, you look and see how much sharing happened on something like Facebook, where it's very easy to do a paid boost and get in front of lots of people, versus what's out there in Quora and Reddit and forums and things like that. If there's nothing out in those community places, then it's pretty clear you must be buying the Facebook brand awareness and exposure. You really want to drive those engagement signals. Here, I think Google is not doing very much in terms of figuring out how many followers somebody has or how much a post got liked or commented on, but the AI answer engines are. And so for them, it's not just a matter of you showed up on 10 people's Facebook feeds, but how many likes and followers do you have? How many comments on that post were there? That sort of stuff. So Google's not dead yet, so focus on the 3-pack. Today, that's the most important thing still. And what matters there, I think you probably all know, your Google business profile data better be consistent with every place else Google sees that facility listed. Links still matter there, maybe a little bit less than they did a year ago. Reviews matter, both the number of reviews and the average rating. And as of about a year ago, all of a sudden, the recency of reviews started to matter a bunch more. So if you're running 4.7 stars for your facility, but last month you got 5 reviews and 3 of those were 2 or 1 star, you're in big trouble because all of a sudden it looks to Google like, hey, you used to do a great job, but boy, something went wrong. And for whatever reason, your customer service sucks starting last month. And so you'll find yourself dropping out of the 3 pack completely if you have a month like that where you get a bunch of negative reviews compared to your total reviews that same month. And that's what I have.
All right. Thank you, Michael. I wanted to, I raised my hand earlier when you were talking about, having a unique business name as opposed to trying to capitalize on DUI attorneys LA. About a year and a half ago, there was a young guy starting out in storage, and it was all the buzz that he opened a storage facility, and the name of the business was Storage Near Me. And everyone was saying, "Oh, he's a genius. I can't believe I didn't think of that." Well, he's hurting right now.
Yeah, he's a genius for a few months, right? He's still a genius in TikTok because if you search storage near me, you'll find businesses that have near me in it across the country instead of in your town.
Instead of near you, yeah.
Yeah. So short term, Google itself figured that out about 5 years ago. I had another client who owned restaurants near me, hotels near me, pharmacies near me, and a couple others. He was killing it with millions of visitors a month until one day, I remember it was a December, his traffic went to essentially zero, like 90 something percent loss. Google all of a sudden went, oh, that's not a keyword. Not all the social media platforms search boxes have figured that out, but they're not stupid. They'll get there soon.
Yeah, and Google's algorithms always are modified in favor of eliminating the people who try to take advantage of the algorithm. Like there used to be duplicate sites with doorway pages, and then they're always trying to make the internet have relevant information for people. They don't want people to turn away from Google search engine by saying, "Well, I just find junk there. I'm gonna go to DuckDuckGo instead." So
Yeah.
if you're doing something to try to get ahead, they're going to figure it out and it's going to flip on you.
Yeah. You might have a short term win, but yeah, it's not a long term strategy.
Okay, can everyone see my screen? So we at Tenant, if you are an SEO customer, we have been modifying what we do. We follow along with all of Google's changes. We work with Michael regularly. So we are working to rank higher in Google AI overviews, ChatGPT results. We have always had Google Business Profile optimization and regular posting as part of our package. And we, in the past year, have been utilizing engagement and authority strategies to not just, having a blog post with keywords is no longer enough. Google wants to see, well, who wrote the blog? So we're putting author links in, links to their bio or link to their LinkedIn, etc., and having more than one author available on your Mariposa site. We're making our websites indexable for mobile first. We have been diligently working on Core Web Vitals, and I hope you guys can see the improvements we've been making in Core Web Vitals. We have, if you're a store local member, you have Swivel Chatbot. You can use Swivel or BirdEye. BirdEye is an easy chatbot to set up, and we have an integration with BirdEye, and it's cost effective as well. And then we're constantly updating our schema and website structure to provide good structured data, clear formatting, and direct answers such as FAQs, etc., which is what the AI search heavily depends on. And if you may have heard the term EAT, which is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So we do leverage FAQs and conversational content. We do improve local SEO for AI-based recommendations. We work regularly on the GBP. We're constantly reminding customers to try to get new reviews. And then I want to bring up a point. There are some customers that are still kind of clinging to old ways and saying, my contract says I'm going to get this many blog posts. I want more blog posts. Well, what if we could spend more time. Instead of creating 3 blog posts, what if we had one blog post that had a video in it and had an author bio with a link and had links to references of where we got the information, and we go in and engage with it? That one blog post is going to be worth more than 10 or 20 blog posts that are just sitting there collecting dust. So more is not better anymore. Better is better, right? Um, and we are working to drive engagement. Some of you have noticed our engagement profiles on social, and is that you? Yeah, that's us. So um, okay, PPC. A lot has changed in Google Ads since June of 2023. They switched to a data-driven model. They moved from click-based metrics to predictive performance modeling. PPC has relied heavily on click-based metrics, which is why it's called pay-per-click. But it's a whole new game now. Click metrics provided narrow yet immediate results. The shift to AI-based predictive performance modeling, or their data-driven model, uses machine learning algorithms to analyze historical data and other signals like user intent, geographical location, to predict which campaigns drive conversions and identify which audiences will be high converting. It's a completely different animal nowadays. Instead of reacting to past performance, the AI-driven predictive analytics help forecast future customer behavior based on past interactions, the likelihood of conversion, what are the optimal bid adjustments, bid strategies, and budgets across various time periods and geographies. They're getting better at predicting, hey, you're going to need X amount of budget per day to receive this many impressions, clicks, conversions. You can expect this. And I urge you to listen. If you think you're going to know better than Google, I would urge you to recheck your stance on that. So the old manual bidding strategies required constant monitoring, and in some cases it was throwing mud against a wall to see if it would stick. Now AI will dynamically adjust bids for you. We've all seen, search ads with 14 headlines and 4 long descriptions, and Google will figure out which ones are performing, and they'll swap them out. We don't have to do that anymore. Keyword approaches have changed dramatically as well. It used to be, don't use broad match. It'll bring in, it's like having the door open during a windstorm. It'll blow in all kinds of junk. No, now broad match really works better, and you don't want to use restrictive strategies like, and this ties back to something Michael said earlier, I want to make my brand name a negative keyword because I don't want to pay for people who search my brand name. No, let them find you any way they can, right? Let Google get data from who is searching your brand name to help figure out who's going to convert. So picking and choosing keywords and thinking, well, I only want to show for this, and I want to show organically for this, and I only want my Google Ads to pay for this, it's a penny wise, dollar foolish approach. Broad match and let Google figure out what's actually working is really the smartest way to go. Something that's been a struggle for us is to get people to understand that these changes require campaigns to kind of sit and marinate in their settings until Google Ads gets enough data to start optimizing. If you constantly change your budgets, your bid strategy, your campaign goals, you're cutting Google off as it's trying to figure out who in your audience for your budget and your geographical location actually has intent, who's going to be more likely to buy. If you keep changing, you're resetting the algorithm. So that's a constant struggle. People aren't used to that, or they think, you just don't want to work. No, our job has changed from going in every day and manipulating bids, budgets, and strategies and keywords to going in and looking at the data and see where it's going, where it's working. We've become mathematicians in a way. So some of you may have noticed when you look at your number of conversions, 1.5, 6.5. What is half a conversion, right? So Google is now giving you a more holistic insight as to the customer engagement. So if they if they clicked on an ad and then went over to your Google business profile and called or went to your website or walked in, we can now measure store visits. The GBP will get the conversion or 0.75 of the conversion, and the Google ad would get 0.25 or 0.5. So it's a more holistic attribution model designed to give credit to attribution points along the way that may have helped, right? And the numbers are in. So Google's gotten a lot better at recognizing the self-storage industry. We see it just in our Google Ads accounts when they recommend keywords. They used to recommend keywords like cloud storage, shoe storage. And we're like, no, it's not that. And they've gotten much better. They actually have recognized storage rental services as an industry. We don't have access to this data, but when we visit Google, which there's a picture of us at Google, yay. When we visit Google or list, like I stole this screenshot while I was on a call with Google. So I wish that Google search trends would let us view this data. This is what they're predicting. This is the past, and because they're using predictive analytics, we can see the dotted line. They're predicting for 2025 less of an increase in business in the summer and less of a decrease over the holidays in 2025. So a more stable storage industry for 2025 with fewer highs and lows. But because the numbers are in, but because they really understand the storage rental services industry now, we're able to do Google local service ads, which gets your Google business profile at the top of the maps. And their recommendations are smarter and more applicable. So trusting their recommendations is more accurate than it was even a year and a half ago. Oh God, the dreaded SEO or PPC audit. I just took screenshots of emails that came in one day. We're going to do a free audit. We had someone, a customer that someone said, we're going to do a free PPC audit. Give us access to your Google ads. Well, they couldn't find anything wrong. They went back to some ads that had been disabled 5 years ago and said, oh, they're using ad types that no longer are relevant. Well, yeah, they're not live. These people are salespeople that use this free audit as a way to try to sell you on something. They're going to try to find something wrong. So if they don't have access to your Google Analytics or Google Search Console, what can they really see, right? They can see your page titles, your meta descriptions, your header tags. They can see if your site is fast enough. Do you have a lot of broken links? And sometimes broken links aren't bad. You may intentionally have a 404 for pages that are removed. They can see if you're missing alt text, etc. They can't tell your actual traffic. What if you're getting a lot of conversions and traffic from SEO? What if your SEO was killing it, but you had a bunch of 404 errors, even intentionally? They're going to make it sound doom and gloom. Oh my God, you have broken links. We need to fix this. They cannot tell your time on site, your conversions, your bounce rates, what keywords are driving traffic, crawler indexing errors, etc. So is it really an audit? No. Is it a sales ploy? Yes. Those emails are often mass generated and templated. They use scare tactics. We found 17 major issues on your site, but they have no idea of your actual performance. Real SEO audits are manual and tool-based, going across a couple of different tools that are connected to your website, and they're customized to your business goals, not just a scan of meta tags. Oh my God, I looked at my Google business profile and Google changed my information. What am I going to do? So Google may update your business profile based on public data. And this is why, consistency across the web is so important. Google will use third-party sources like data aggregators, government sites, license records, or user-submitted content. Or they may crawl the web and find different iterations of your name, business address, etc. Um, they use machine learning. A lot of this time, this is AI driven. It's not a human going, aha, I think I'm going to change these business photos. They think they're helping, but sometimes they get it wrong. So how to prevent, and I've noticed in storage, a lot of people, you'll have a domain like ABC Storage, but everyone at the company is using their Gmail, their personal Gmail. Use a business email, not a personal Gmail. Be consistent across the web. Your website, your directories, including Yellow Pages. We don't think of Yellow Pages and Better Business Bureau. Google checks Yelp. Of course, Bing Maps, Apple Maps, and your social sites. You want to be consistent. And that includes phone numbers. The days of putting a different tracking number on every location. Well, I want to see how many calls I get from Facebook. No, you want to see how many calls you get from organic and use that same phone number on all your organic listings and make sure it's in DNI to tell Google that it's a tracking number. And you can use a separate phone number for your paid sources because you want to track ROI, right? If you have to change your business info, we changed our address, we changed our business name. Before you make any changes, have your proof ready. Utility bills or lease, a business license with the new name exactly as it appears everywhere, an IRS or official government document showing your business name as it is going to appear, and then make sure it's the same business name, not like ABC Storage LLC here or ABC Self Storage here. Google's not going to figure, that's probably the same thing. They're going to err on the side of caution, and it's got to be exact. And why? Scammers have historically used slightly different names, slightly different URLs, and different phone numbers so that they can scam you, and then you have trouble tracing back to the original source, and then you end up suing Google, right? So the best practice is if you have to change your information, you changed your name or your address, update your info everywhere else first. All your website directories, all your citations, Yelp, Better Business Bureau, do all of that first, because when you submit your name change on your Google business profile, Google's going to go and check all these other places. So if you haven't changed it there first, you're setting yourself up for a high probability of suspension. If you've changed your signage, change your photos, your exterior photo or your cover photo. If you're changing both name, address, if you have major changes, do them separately. Doing too much at once looks like, oh, I'm trying to represent a whole different business here, right? And if you're using local service ads, which is attached to your Google business profile, before you submit your name change, put in a support ticket with local service ads and say, hey, we're planning to do a name change. Here's a heads up. So when they see a change in the name versus the name that's on the account, they're not going to throw you into suspension. They're going to say, okay, we're expecting this. We're going to keep an eye on it rather than react. Oh, and I also wanted to say I've had so many people say, well, I submitted my insurance documents or my IRS documents, but it's been 3 months and my business profile is still suspended. I said, show me the documents. And the name is slightly different than the name on the business profile. And I'm like, why did you submit that if the name wasn't the same? Well, we figured that we wanted to see if they would take it. If you play a game of it's close enough, let's see if they'll take it, they're going to reject it because it's the first few passes are AI anyway. It's not a human going, oh, close enough. Um, so you're going to waste potentially months if you submit a change or a reinstatement form on GBP. It could be 3 to 4 weeks before they even answer you for the first time. You could be having your business profile down off of maps for potentially months just by saying, well, I know my documents don't match. Let's see if they take it. All right. Assume they won't. And Sneha, we've been working together for 2 years to keep Mariposa uh, on top of the SEO needs of our customers. And Sneha is going to present on what we've added to Mariposa and how we're an SEO first product.
Thank you, Nikki. All right, let me just
Share, or do you want me to progress through the slides at your command?
I'll share my screen so I can just show some of the hummingbird stuff. So, some from we are constantly making in every development cycle improvements to Mariposa, just focused on marketing. And one of the key things we added in the past PIs was ensuring you had ability to customize your H1 tags, your H1s, your meta descriptions, meta titles, your alt texts. So previously there were certain sections where you had the ability, but certain pages you did not. But now you have complete control to edit your H1 and meta titles and descriptions and all tags at any pages. For example, one of the requests was for city content. Now, if you go to the city content page, for every city, there is an H1 tag in there. And there's also meta titles and descriptions. Previously, for your blogs, when you do upload images, the all tags were not there, like it was completely taken off. But now the name that you enter in for the image does show up as the alt text. So these are some of the best practices, and all these are thanks to Michael Cottam. He's the one who gave these recommendations. So having, including keywords into your H1, because H1s are good for click-through rates, or even for your meta descriptions and titles, and ensuring that what a user is your text based on that. All that control is in your hands. So if there is any page that you think in Mariposa you do not have control over these elements, please let us know and we'll ensure that's added to our queue as well. But as far as I know, all the content pages, all the landing pages, now you should have control to edit any of these through the CMS backend. And coming to sources and mediums, we had a big project end of, I think, probably from mid last year, and Nikki and I and the dev team's been working on ensuring we get your sources into Hummingbird. And it was a challenge because a lot of times when customers were clicking a PPC ad, the UTM parameters were getting replaced by referrer links. So we had to identify the referrer links for all the different sources like Google, Yahoo, Bing, social media, etc. And now we have identified them and they're all incorporated, and it all comes into Hummingbird as your source, channel, and medium. So this is how it would show up on Hummingbird. And this is not a project that's, this is a constantly evolving project, because right now this is coming in for the click-throughs. We are now doing enhancements so that it also matches up for the phone calls. And like Nikki said, dynamic number insertion is key in ensuring the data is streamlined. So, and we are making improvements into our dynamic number insertion so you can get this data as a full picture. we've introduced digital footprints into the tenant profile of the customer, so you can get this, you can see where your customers came from, including the devices and the browsers, and use that data in tenant warehouse to get insights from it. So this is a constant work that's constantly in progress. We do keep, as we see data coming in, we do see like some updates into the code that we have to constantly make. So I would say please do look into this section of your sources, channel, mediums. If you do see some discrepancies, let us know so that we can correct it and continue to improve on it. Um, Another feature that is very close to production is our feature pages. So what's feature pages? Previously on storage types, and this is again helping in building more content to the website as well as link building. And it's an evolution of the storage types section. So previously storage types, you just enter in your content, your images, but what it's going to do now is it also locates, like you can enter, it locates the properties that have that feature available. So how that is doing it is pulling in from your features and amenities that you've checked on your features and amenities section on the CMS. So if you've checked wine storage as a feature and amenity in your CMS settings, then that location gets pulled into this section of your corporate feature page.
So we're
So
creating internal backlinks, and this is highly relevant content. It's not a blog about top 10 best things to do in San Diego. It's relevant to what the website is selling and the business is selling and offering. Go ahead.
yes, and a variation of this is the property specific pages. And this is pulling from features and amenities through Hummingbird. So unfortunately, this is only property specific feature pages is something that is only applicable for Hummingbird customers, because we get the data of features and amenities for each of the storage types from Hummingbird. From SSM or storage, it comes in as descriptions. Like you have to go and type in the description, which is not uh, which is harder to pull in and map it. So this is property specific feature pages. And Nikki, maybe you can speak a little bit about the relevance of the property specific
Sure.
page.
Yeah, so if you have a facility, a storage facility in Newport Beach, here's an opportunity to highlight, let's, in this example, wine storage. It's going to shorten your conversion funnel by only, so if you've posted on GBP, social, or in a paid ad, wine storage, they don't have to sort through 5x5s, 5x10s, RV boat storage. They can go right to the storage type that they clicked on, that they showed interest in. They can rent the unit right from there. And there's also an opportunity to provide local SEO copy. For example, climate controlled storage. The climate controlled facility level page might read very differently for a facility on the Central Coast as it would for the high desert, right? You're going to use local factors in your copy. So it's relevant copy, it's local SEO, and it shortens your conversion funnel to get people to the exact feature they showed interest in. You're welcome.
Thank you, Nikki. And so these are some of the updates we're working on, and we're also doing updates to the schema markup to ensure that it is following best practices. And with that, I think there's one more, and there's just 2 minutes more, so I'll just pass it on to Nikki.
Okay. This is actually Margo's time, but Margo has been an exemplary customer in that many customers were skeptical when Google rolled out these radical changes. Like, what do you mean broad match keywords? What do you mean my campaign has to be on max clicks and get a certain keyword volume and a certain number of conversions before I can change bidding strategies? And she trusted us and she trusted Google, and the results are amazing. 1 year ago, we thought we reached a milestone with 300 conversions in 1 month. We're over 800 now with around the same budgets. Google invited us to do a deep strategy dive, open up their account, look at all their locations, all their bidding strategies. And we're going to do that twice a year at Google headquarters with A1. So thank you, Margo, for trusting us and Google. And take it away. I'll go ahead and progress the slide.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, this is just a short data set. I thought it was relevant to share because I was pulling my reporting for March. And yeah, as Nikki said, this year we're spending about 15% more than we were last year. However, we're seeing more than double conversions across the board. And I broke these out by the types of conversions that we're seeing. So for reference, at the bottom, you have March 2024. We're just under 300 this month last year, and we reached 814 total conversions. Of course, what we care about the most, hard rentals and getting money right up front. So rentals increased from 39 to 128. And as of mid-March, when I did my quarterly reporting with all of our regional managers, I shared that year to date at that point, we had over, I think, 130 more rentals year to date as well, comparing year over year. So yeah, the main changes that we did was exactly what Nikki covered in this presentation. And it was hard to get leadership and everyone on board with not constantly adjusting our budgets. But truly, the key is that you have to just let them sit. We switched from monthly budgets where we would assess each store's need and then moved our way over to now only reassessing on a quarterly basis. And I took it a step further, and I'm not, I meet with my team in revenue management, determine where we need to spend more and what we need to do. However, I've been trying to keep those budget increases, even on a quarterly level, as minimal as possible. And there's kind of a sweet spot, where if you change it too much, then it completely resets. I think, Nikki, did you say about 20% budget increases is the safe
Increase or
zone?
decrease. Yeah.
Yeah. So, maybe you don't want to, even on a quarterly basis, half your budget, right? If you're spending $1,000, maybe you don't want to half it to $500. Maybe consider keeping things, on more of a sliding spectrum. And something else that we would do is, we would have a knee-jerk reaction. We lost 2% occupancy at this property. We need to throw money at it, So I've been trying to kind of mitigate that, and instead of drastically increasing a budget, slightly increase the daily budget if needed and if it's truly necessary. But no, we've seen outstanding results. I mean, you see the huge spike in traffic. Is this March? Yeah, mid-March, we had a huge spike in traffic. I believe that's our student season. We have a lot of stores. I was trying to figure out what that huge spike was. I'm pretty sure because impressions and clicks went up dramatically. I believe that's because a lot of our San Diego stores are right around major universities, and this is the time that we start to get an influx of students. So as much as I'd like to take credit for that giant random 3-day period where everything shot up, I do believe that's just kind of where we're seeing a spike in students actually converting, that we're kind of eyeing storage or thinking about it. But yeah, no, those are kind of the main changes that we made. Google touched on a few other things that I might consider implementing maybe for next quarter, just to keep in mind. They brought up the possibility of investing more in efficient campaigns, your highest converting campaigns, right? You're getting the most bang for your buck. I don't know to what extent a storage business can really do that, because we want all of our facilities to show up locally and to show up at the top, and we still want a level of brand awareness, for anyone who's looking at or considering storage. So, I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do with that tidbit of knowledge, but I did think that was an interesting point. We also invested more in our PMAX campaign as well. I've been told multiple times to do it, and I finally bit the bullet and more than doubled what we were spending on PMAX. And because it's our highest converting campaign, it goes across to all locations. It truly is a really, really good way, an easy way to boost your overall conversions and get more traffic over to your ads. So that's something that we did as well going into this year and this next quarter.
I want to add that historically, a lot of storage owners would work with their PPC rep and say, well, this month occupancy is up, so we're going to cut our budgets or pause our ads. And then next month, we're going to turn them back on. Well, every time you make a change like that, you're putting the ad back into learning mode. And once you turn it back on or have implemented that change, the ad won't be performing, it will be learning. So you're losing time. It is far better to figure out where do I want to be for an entire quarter and not go week to week, month to month, making like micromanaging changes, because it's hurting Google's ability to figure out your audience and your budget. And another thing was, especially with Margo, her leadership would say, well, we want to maintain over 80% top of page rate. But if you're optimizing for top of page rate, you're showing to as many people as possible. But if you're optimizing for conversions, you're going to show
Completely
fewer
different.
people, but people that are more likely to convert. So I would panic as we were killing it with conversions and getting that cost per conversion down. Like last year, you were around $170 cost per conversion.
Oh yeah, more than double.
Conversions,
Yeah.
lower cost per conversion, but the top of page rate is going like 78, 70.
Yeah.
Like
Trying to, well, and now we're hovering somewhere at like 65%, which makes sense, but our ads there are true KPIs showing us that our ads are performing
right.
so much better, but people get used to their habits, or I still get screenshots of Google searches, one Google search, why aren't we number one? Like, I don't know, are you logged in on Google? There's a million factors. The Google search does not tell you where you're performing, but there are KPIs like this that show that we doubled our conversions, and we're getting our ads are showing for the right people. And I always tell management too, we are not our target audience. I search storage all the time and I never rent. I don't want I don't want people like me, you want people who are actively looking for storage and have the intent to convert and are qualified to convert. It's different different targets and different goals, but yeah, overall I'm very pleased with all of our performance, and I hope to keep kind of digging in on this and seeing what little changes I can make to make it even better. And as Nikki was saying too, the learning phase is very much a real thing. I see it in my numbers when I look at visualization of kind of how we're performing. Our conversion rate shoots up after about a week and a half, like by mid-month of the month that I implemented the new budgets. You see that spike in traffic because they're finally catching on, because you readjusted and move things around. You kind of see that learning phase, and you see when it ends and when they start to optimize themselves.
Well, I think we've said it all.
I think we have.